Let's begin with the user prefs. Show on startup will make the action button visible at the start of the game. Button size determines the size of the button. Text size determines how big or how small the action button text is. Button text is the custom text that will appear on the action button itself. Post-click option determines what happens to the button after it's been clicked on. The options are none, hide on click, and destroy on click. None is useful when you need to press the button several times. The button will remain on the screen. Hide on click is ideal for when you need to reuse the action button. So instead of destroying the button, it will just be hidden, and then you can always bring it back later in the game. Destroy on click is ideal for when you know that you only need to use the button once. Once you click it, it will be destroyed. The next section allows us to choose the location of the button on our screen. Pivot and anchor location determines where and how the button is anchored to the screen. Pivot refers to the pivot point of the button, and the anchor location refers to the screen position. So the default is center, which means the button's pivot point is in the center of the button, and it will be positioned or anchored to the center of the screen. If this option was set to top left, for example, then the button's pivot point would be at the top left corner of the button, and it will be positioned at the upper left corner of the screen. Distance from anchor allows you to put some space in between the button and its anchor point. If the anchor position is the left side of the screen, then a positive X value would move the button to the right, away from the anchor location. If the anchor location is on the right side of the screen, then a positive X value would move the button to the left, again away from the anchor location. The same thing applies to the Y value. If the button is anchored at the top of the screen, then a positive Y value would move the button down. If the button was anchored at the bottom of the screen, then a positive Y value would move the button up, again away from the anchor location. The Do Not Edit section should be left alone. If you do happen to mess this section up, or the field is empty for some reason or another, I'll go ahead and click on the field so that you can see where the object is in the project files. If it's missing, just drag the object back into this field. There's one event. Button clicked happens anytime the button is clicked. I'll demonstrate the action button for you. Imagine that we've beamed down to the planet's surface in order to retrieve a rare crystal. And once we complete our task, we need a way to request a teleport back up to our ship. I'll drop a crystal collectible into my scene, and I'll move it away from our character so that we don't accidentally collect it as soon as the game starts. I'll create a cube to use for our spaceship. I'll scale it up and flatten it a little bit. Of course, it won't look like a spaceship, but we can pretend. This will just be the floor of our spaceship. Maybe it's in the transporter room of our spaceship. Once I have it looking more like a floor, I'll drop a darker texture on it so that it looks more interesting and maybe not so bright. I'll also raise it up into the air, but not too far, just far enough so that it's out of our way. We now have our crystal and we have our spaceship. Let's put a teleporter in our scene since we need to be able to teleport after we collect the crystal. Once I place one in the scene, I'll move it off to the side so it's not right under our character, but it's okay if I leave it at world center. I don't want to see the teleporter in my scene, so I'll check the user pref option that says hide teleporter. This will make the teleporter invisible during gameplay. We also need to give our teleporter a destination. Let's use a GPS point for that. You can find the GPS point in the Utilities folder. Once I locate it, I'll drop one onto my spaceship, and this will be our teleport destination. Once I have it on my spaceship, we need to tell the teleporter to use our GPS point as the master destination. To do this, we simply select the teleporter, then drag the GPS point to the teleport destination field. The last thing we need in our scene is an action button. Once we've collected our crystal, we'll need to click the action button in order to request a teleport. So I'll go ahead and drop one in my scene now. Let's begin making all of our connections. Let's start with our objective, collecting the crystal. Once we collect the crystal, we need the action button to show up. So let's make that connection first. I'll select the crystal collectible, and I'll expand the collected event. Next, I'll drag and drop the action button into this event and tell it to show the action button. Now, when the crystal is collected, it will make the action button appear on the screen. Let's set up the action button. I'll make sure it's selected so that I can see its options. I'm going to change the button text to say, Request Teleport. This is the text that will appear on the button. I want the button to be lower on the screen. Right now, it's going to be at the center. So let's change the pivot and anchor location to bottom center. That will put the button right on the bottom edge of the screen. Let's move it up about a distance of 50 by typing 50 in the Y value for distance from anchor. I already know that I need to make the button a little bit wider to fit my button text, so I'm going to change it to 150. That should be wide enough. Now we need to tell it what to do when it's clicked. I'll expand the button clicked event, and then I'll drop in the teleporter and tell it to teleport us to the master destination. I think we're ready to test it out now. So once I collect the crystal, the action button should appear, allowing us to request a teleport back up to our ship.